Listen closely. Most people will go through their entire lives as financial slaves, and they will die never knowing the truth. They will spend 40 years trading the only thing they can never get back, their time, for pieces of paper that they immediately give back to corporations, banks, and landlords. They live in a cycle of earn, spend, and regret, wondering why they feel anxious, why they feel stuck, and why the world seems to be moving ahead while they are standing still. If you are listening to this, it's because you've sensed the trap. You've realized that the 99% path is a dead end. But here is the brutal reality. You cannot fix a broken life with more money if you have a broken mind. Money is not a solution, it is an amplifier. If you are undisciplined, more money will only make you more effectively self-destructive. If you are insecure, more money will only make you a louder version of your own insecurities. Financial Stoicism is not about spreadsheets. It's not about hacks or picking the next trending stock. This is a war. It is a war for your freedom, and the primary enemy is the person looking back at you in the mirror. Every single day, the world tries to provoke you. It tries to make you feel less than because you don't have the newest phone. It tries to make you feel outdated because your clothes don't have the right logo. And every time you react, every time you reach for your wallet to quiet that feeling of inadequacy, you lose. You hand over a piece of your future to someone who doesn't even know your name. A financial stoic is dangerous because they are unhackable. They have mastered the art of indifference. They look at the things the world worships, luxury, status, and mindless consumption, and they feel absolutely nothing. They understand that money is a tool for freedom, not a trophy for the ego. If you cannot control your impulses, you will never control your bank account. You can study the markets all day, but if you haven't studied your own weaknesses, you are just a gambler waiting for a crash. The 99% are ruled by their moods. The 1% are ruled by their standards. This audiobook is your blueprint to exit the cycle of mediocrity. We aren't going to talk about getting rich quick. We are going to talk about becoming a person who is worthy of wealth. We are going to dismantle the emotional traps that keep you poor and replace them with a quiet, steady power that attracts success. Are you ready to stop being a consumer and start being a commander? Are you ready to build a life that doesn't need to be explained to anyone? Then, let's begin. The blueprint starts now. Chapter 1. The brutal truth about your bank account. Most people walk through life in a state of financial fog. They check their banking app with a sense of dread, or worse, they avoid looking at it altogether, hoping that if they ignore the numbers, the reality of their situation will somehow change. They blame the economy. They blame their boss. They blame the cost of living. But today, we are going to strip away the excuses and face the one thing that no one wants to talk about. Your bank account is an honest report card of your self-discipline. If your account is empty, it's not because you aren't working hard. There are millions of people working 3 jobs who are still broke. It's because you have a character flaw that you are trying to hide with busyness. The brutal truth is that a bank account is a mathematical receipt of your choices. Every dollar that leaves your pocket is a vote for the person you are becoming. If you are constantly bleeding money on things that vanish the moment you consume them, you are voting for a future of dependency and weakness. The reflection in the mirror. We live in a culture that treats money like a mystery, but money is actually the most objective mirror in existence. It does not care about your intentions. It does not care that you meant to save this month. It only records what you actually did. When you look at your balance, you aren't just looking at a number. You are looking at your level of impulse control. If you cannot say no to a 5 coffee, a 100 pair of shoes, or a 50,000 car you can't afford, how can you expect the universe to trust you with millions? Wealth is not a reward for being good. It is a consequence of being disciplined. The 99% believe that wealth is something that happens to you, a lucky break, a promotion, an inheritance. The 1% know that wealth is something you build within yourself long before the first million ever arrives. You have to realize that you are currently being hunted. There are thousands of the world's smartest engineers, psychologists, and marketers waking up every morning with one goal: to separate you from your money. They study your brain's dopamine pathways. They know exactly how to make you feel like you are missing out if you don't buy now. If you do not have a Stoic mindset, you are defenseless. You are a sheep walking into a room full of wolves, and your bank account is the evidence of how many times you've been bitten. The trap of comparative success. The greatest thief of wealth is not taxes or inflation. It is the need to be seen as successful. Most people aren't working for freedom, they are working for status. They want the house in the right neighborhood and the car with the right badge so that people they don't even like will think they're doing well. This is the emotional trap of poverty. You are so insecure about your actual value as a human being that you feel the need to buy symbols of value to convince the world you matter. But a financial Stoic knows that real power is quiet. Real wealth is invisible. If you have to tell people you're rich by wearing a logo, you aren't rich, you are an unpaid billboard for a corporation that is getting wealthy off your insecurity. Think about the 4% daily rule we discussed in previous chapters. If you can't dedicate 4% of your day to improving your mind, you will spend 100% of your life serving those who did. The same applies to your money. If you cannot keep 10% of what you earn to build your own empire, you are nothing more than a high-functioning slave for everyone else's empire. You are working for the electric company, the car manufacturer, and the clothing brand. You are the last person who gets paid from your own paycheck. The law of financial momentum: wealth builds through momentum, and momentum is fueled by the boring, repetitive act of saying no. Every time you resist an impulse to buy something you don't need, you are performing a mind boost. You are training your brain to prioritize the future over the present. Most people are present biased. They want the dopamine hit now. They want the comfort now. But the Stoic understands that now is fleeting. The only thing that lasts is the freedom you build through restraint. When you have money in the bank, not for spending, but for presence, your entire energy changes. You walk into a room differently when you know you don't need the job. You speak more clearly when you aren't afraid of a missed paycheck. Your silence becomes more powerful because it isn't rooted in the desperation of a man who is 1 week away from ruin. The world rewards those who can wait. If you look at the 99%, they are always in a rush. They want get rich quick. They want buy now, pay later. They want the shortcut. But there are no shortcuts to a wealthy mindset. There is only the long, disciplined road of financial stoicism. You must learn to find more joy in the growth of your assets than in the consumption of your liabilities. Taking ownership of the receipt. Starting today, I want you to look at every transaction as a test of your leadership. Before you tap that card or click buy, ask yourself, is this purchase serving my freedom or is it feeding my ego? If it's feeding your ego, put it back. If it's a reaction to a bad mood, walk away. You must become a commander of your capital. Stop treating your money like a guest that is just passing through, and start treating it like a soldier that is meant to fight for your future. A soldier that stays in your bank account is a soldier that is ready for war. A soldier you spend on a luxury dinner is a soldier that has been executed for 5 minutes of pleasure. The brutal truth is this: no one is coming to save your bank account. The government isn't going to fix it. A lottery ticket isn't going to fix it. Only a fundamental shift in your character will fix it. You must become the kind of person who is capable of holding wealth. You must develop the investor's nerve, the ability to stay calm when everyone else is panicking, and the ability to stay disciplined when everyone else is indulging. Your bank account is a mirror. If you don't like what you see, don't break the mirror. Change the person standing in front of it. Stop being a victim of your impulses and start being the architect of your destiny. In the next chapter, we will dive deep into the specific mechanics of spending for ego versus investing for freedom, and how to tell the difference between a tool that builds you and a toy that breaks you. But for now, sit with the numbers. Be honest with the receipt. Accept that where you are is a result of what you've chosen. And once you accept that, you finally have the power to choose something better. Chapter 2. Spending for ego versus investing for freedom. The world is a stage, and most people are spending themselves into bankruptcy trying to buy a better costume. We live in an era of hypervisibility. At any moment, you can broadcast your life to thousands of people, and because of that, the temptation to perform success has never been more dangerous. But here is the distinction that will separate the winners from the pretenders. Spending for ego is an act of submission. Investing for freedom is an act of sovereignty. Every time you spend money, you are making a trade. You aren't just trading currency, you are trading a piece of your life. If you earn $50 an hour and you buy a $500 pair of designer shoes, you didn't just spend money. You spent 10 hours of your life. You spent 10 hours of your sweat, your stress, and your finite time on earth. The question is, did those shoes buy you 10 hours of value? Or did they just buy you 10 seconds of a look from a stranger who doesn't even like you? The high cost of being liked. The 99% are obsessed with being liked. They are terrified of being perceived as average or behind. To solve this fear, they use their capital to buy masks. They buy the luxury watch, the oversized house, and the high-end vacation, not because they truly value the experience, but because they value the perception of the experience. This is spending for ego. It is a bottomless pit, because the ego is never satisfied. No matter what you buy, there is always a newer model, a bigger house, or a flashier neighbor. When you spend for ego, you are essentially paying a status tax. You are paying extra money just so you can feel superior for a fleeting moment. But look at the math. If you are working a job you hate to pay for a lifestyle that impresses people you don't respect, you aren't a leader. You are a servant to the opinions of others. You have traded your freedom for a gilded cage. A financial stoic looks at a luxury item and asks one question: does this object serve my purpose, or does it serve my pride? If the answer is pride, the stoic walks away, not because they can't afford it, but because they refuse to be controlled by it. Buying back your time, investing for freedom, is a completely different psychological game. While the ego looks outward for validation, the seeker of freedom looks inward for peace. Investing for freedom is the act of taking your surplus capital and putting it to work so that eventually you don't have to. Every dollar you invest is a freedom fighter you are sending out to the front lines. That dollar goes out, it works, it earns interest, it compounds, and it eventually brings back more soldiers. When you have enough of these soldiers working for you, you become untouchable. You no longer have to say yes to a boss you don't respect. You no longer have to panic when the economy shifts. You have bought back your time, and time is the only true wealth. The tragedy is that most people find investing boring. They want the excitement of the purchase. They want the new car smell. They want the instant gratification of a shopping bag in their hand. But a financial stoic finds excitement in the spreadsheet. They find joy in the growing balance of their brokerage account. They understand that the smell of freedom is much better than the smell of a new leather interior. One is a temporary chemical hit in the brain. The other is a permanent shift in your soul. The invisibility of real wealth. One of the hardest things for people to accept is that real wealth is usually invisible. The millionaire next door is often the guy in the 10-year-old truck and the plain t-shirt. He doesn't have anything to prove. He has "go away" money in the bank, which gives him a level of calm that no designer logo can provide. Conversely, the loudest person in the room, the one flashing the most cash, is often the most fragile. They are one missed paycheck away from total collapse. Their entire identity is built on a house of cards fueled by credit and insecurity. When you spend for ego, you are announcing to the world that you need their approval. When you invest for freedom, you are announcing to yourself that you are enough. The discipline of the no, to move from the ego trap to the freedom track, you must develop a ruthless discipline. You must learn to say no to the small desires so you can say yes to the big destiny. This requires you to reframe how you see money. Stop seeing money as something to be spent. Start seeing it as something to be deployed. When you see a new gadget that costs $1,000, don't think, I have $1,000 in my account, so I can afford it. Instead, think, if I invest this $1,000 at a 7% return, in 20 years it will be worth nearly $4,000. Am I willing to pay $4,000 for this gadget? Because that is the true cost. You are paying with your future wealth to satisfy a present impulse. This isn't about living a life of misery or deprivation. It's about priority. It's about realizing that the greatest luxury on earth isn't a brand. It's options. The option to quit. The option to start a business. The option to travel for a year. The option to be present for your family. You cannot buy these options at a store. You can only build them through the consistent, quiet act of choosing freedom over ego. The social pressure of the 99%. As you begin this journey, the people around you will try to pull you back. They will ask why you aren't upgrading your life. They will make jokes about your frugality. They will try to make you feel small because you aren't playing the status game. This is the ultimate test. The 99% need you to spend for your ego because it validates their poor choices. If you stay disciplined, you become a mirror that shows them their own lack of control. You must be willing to be misunderstood by people who are headed nowhere. You must be willing to look poor today so that you can be truly wealthy tomorrow. Remember the mind boost philosophy. Your presence must speak before your words do. If you have to use your clothes or your car to speak for you, you have no presence. But when you are grounded in the knowledge that you own your time, you carry a weight that no luxury item can simulate. Your action plan for sovereignty, for the next 30 days, I want you to audit every non-essential purchase. Before you buy, wait 48 hours. Ask yourself, am I buying this for my freedom, or am I buying this for my image? If you can't honestly say it builds your future, keep the money. Invest the difference. Watch the numbers grow. Feel the shift in your confidence as you realize you are no longer a victim of the marketing machine. You are a financial stoic. You are a commander of your resources. You are building a life that doesn't need to be explained because the results will eventually speak for themselves. In the next chapter, we will explore the emotional trap of poverty and how to deprogram the panic brain that keeps you making short-term decisions that ruin your long-term potential. But for now, choose your side. Will you spend for the ego of today, or will you invest for the freedom of a lifetime? The choice is yours. Chapter 3. The emotional trap of poverty. Poverty is not just a lack of digits in a bank account. It is a psychological state characterized by chronic reaction. Most people do not realize that they are trapped in a biological feedback loop of stress and short-term gratification that keeps them permanently anchored to the bottom. They think they need more money, but what they actually need is a new nervous system. To stay ahead of the 99%, you must understand that poverty is an emotional trap before it is a financial one. The panic brain is the default setting for the masses. When you live paycheck to paycheck, your mind is constantly operating in survival mode. In this state, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, long-term planning, and stoic restraint, shuts down. In its place, the amygdala takes over. This is the part of your brain that cares only about right now. It cares about escaping pain and finding immediate comfort. This is why people in financial trouble often make the worst financial decisions. They aren't stupid, they are emotionally hijacked. The dopamine of the downtrodden. When you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, when the bills are mounting and the future looks bleak, the brain screams for a rescue. Most people answer that scream with a micro-escape. They buy a meal they can't afford, they spend money on entertainment they don't need, or they chase a get-rich-quick scheme that promises an easy exit. This is the dopamine trap. You feel poor, so you spend money to feel rich for an hour. That purchase provides a temporary chemical spike that numbs the pain of your reality. But when the dopamine fades, you are poorer than you were before, and the anxiety returns twice as loud. To break this cycle, you must become comfortable with the discomfort of your reality. A financial stoic does not use money to medicate their emotions. They use discipline to fix the cause of the emotion. You must learn to sit with the sting of having less today so that you can have everything tomorrow. The scarcity mindset, a self-fulfilling prophecy, the second layer of the emotional trap, is the scarcity mindset. This is the belief that there is a limited amount of success and that you are fighting for crumbs. When you live in scarcity, you become reactive. You become jealous of others' success. You view every expense as a tragedy and every gain as a fluke. This mindset forces you to think in days instead of decades. You worry about how you'll get through next week, so you never have the mental bandwidth to build a plan for the next 10 years. Wealth is built on the horizon, but poverty is lived in the dirt. To shift your mindset, you must stop looking at money as something you lose when you pay bills and start looking at it as a tool you command. You must move from a state of defense, trying not to lose, to a state of offense, calculating how to win. Killing the lottery ticket. Hope. The 99% are always waiting for a miracle. They wait for a government handout, a market moonshot, or a literal lottery win. This hope is actually a poison. It keeps you passive. It makes you believe that the solution to your life is external. Financial Stoicism teaches that hope is not a strategy. Reliance on luck is a confession of weakness. When you hope to get rich, you are admitting that you do not have control over your own results. You must replace hope with process. The person who relies on the process doesn't care about the lottery. They know that if they follow the 24-hour knowledge formula and the 4% daily rule, wealth is an inevitable mathematical outcome. The trap of poverty is broken the moment you stop waiting for a savior and realize that you are the one holding the pen. This is called loss aversion, and it is the primary reason the masses stay stagnant. They are so afraid of taking a risk that they stay in a safe job that pays them just enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. The emotional trap of poverty tells you that safe is good. But in a world that is evolving at the speed of AI and global shifts, safe is actually the most dangerous place to be. If you are not growing, you are being devalued by inflation and competition. A financial stoic does not fear loss, because their value is not in their money, it is in their skill. If you lose all your money today but keep your discipline and your knowledge, you will be wealthy again in a few years. But if a person with an emotional trap mindset wins the lottery, they will be broke again in a few years. The money always returns to the level of the person's character, the social contagion of struggle. You must also recognize that the emotional trap of poverty is contagious. If you spend your time with people who complain about the system, who mock those who try to get ahead, and who find comfort in their shared struggle, you will never leave. The 99% use struggle as a social bond. They find identity in being a victim. If you start to succeed, they will try to pull you back into the trap using guilt. They will call you changed or obsessed. You must be willing to walk alone. As we discussed in How to Speak Less, Influence More, your silence and your absence from the complaint circles will be your greatest power. You don't need to explain why you're leaving the trap, you just need to leave. Deprogramming the panic. Brain. How do you actually escape? You start by decoupling your emotions from your bank balance. Audit your triggers. Notice when you feel the urge to spend. Is it when you're bored, stressed, feeling less than after scrolling social media? Recognize the trap before it snaps shut. The 72-hour rule. Never make a financial decision based on an emotion. If you want it today, you must still want it in 72 hours when your heart rate is back to normal. Build the war chest. The first step to killing financial panic is having an emergency fund. It's not for spending, it's for psychological leverage. Knowing you can survive for 6 months without a paycheck kills the amygdala's power over you. It allows you to think like a commander instead of a refugee. Wealth is a slow game played by calm people. Poverty is a fast game played by panicked people. The trap is designed to keep you moving, keep you reacting, and keep you spending. The only way out is to stand still, to breathe, to look at your situation with cold, stoic eyes and say, I am not my bank account. I am the discipline that will build it. In the next chapter, we will discuss building a life that doesn't need to be explained and how to protect your new mindset from the noise of a world that wants you to stay loud, broke, and controlled. But for now, kill the panic. Own the process. Break the trap. Chapter 4, Building a Life That Doesn't Need to Be Explained. We live in a world that is obsessed with proof. People are desperate to prove they are successful, prove they are happy, and prove they are superior. But there is a secret that the top 1% understand and the 99% never will. The more you have to explain your life, the less you actually own it. If you have to post a photo of your expensive dinner to feel like you enjoyed it, you didn't enjoy the meal, you enjoyed the attention. If you have to tell people how much you made this month to feel successful, you aren't successful. You are insecure. Real wealth is quiet. Real power is private. A financial stoic does not seek to be understood by the masses, they seek to be unshakable within themselves. The trap of external validation. Most people are living a performance life. Every decision they make, from the car they drive to the career path they choose, is filtered through the lens of, what will they think? This is a form of mental poverty. When you live for the applause of the crowd, you are handing them the remote control to your self-worth. If they clap, you feel like a king. If they are silent, or if they criticize you, you feel like a failure. A leader knows that public opinion is a fickle, shallow currency. It has no real value. You cannot deposit likes into a bank account to buy your freedom. You cannot use approval to protect your family in a crisis. The goal of financial stoicism is to reach a level of internal certainty where you no longer need the world to agree with your choices. You build a life that is so deeply rooted in your own standards that it becomes self-evident. It doesn't need a caption, it doesn't need a justification, it just is. The power of the ghost. Strategy. The 99% are loud. They broadcast their wins and complain about their losses. They are predictable. A financial stoic, however, operates like a ghost. You should be the person in your social circle that no one quite understands. They see you working. They see you staying disciplined, but they don't see the flash. Why? Because when you are building real wealth, you realize that visibility is a liability. The more the world knows about your success, the more they will try to tax it, emotionally, socially, and financially. People will come to you with their hands out. They will judge your frugality. They will try to pull you into status games to see if you'll blink. By building a life that doesn't need to be explained, you protect your focus. You don't waste mental energy crafting a successful image. You spend that energy on actual success. While your competitors are busy managing their reputations, you are busy managing your assets. While they are seeking influence, you are seeking sovereignty. The why versus the what. When you stop explaining, you start observing. You begin to see that most people's why is completely hollow. They want the big house because that's what successful people do. They want the luxury watch because it's a symbol of making it. But the Stoic asks, what is the function of this item in my mission? If an item does not increase your freedom, your health, or your ability to produce, it is a distraction. A life that doesn't need explanation is a life built on function over fashion. You buy the house that provides peace and utility, not the one that looks best on a real estate listing. You drive the car that gets you from point A to point B reliably, so you can focus on the work that actually matters. This isn't about being cheap. It's about being strategic. It's about realizing that the greatest luxury on earth is a clear mind and a schedule that belongs to you. If you have to explain your lifestyle to others, it usually means you are trying to convince yourself that your choices were worth it. If you are truly at peace, silence is the only response necessary. Detaching from social debt. There is a concept called social debt. It's the feeling that you owe the people around you a certain level of lifestyle to keep them comfortable. If your friends all get new cars, you feel a debt to get one too, so you don't look like the poor friend. If your family expects a lavish celebration, you feel a debt to pay for it, even if it hurts your long-term goals. Financial Stoicism is the act of defaulting on your social debt. You must be willing to let people be wrong about you. You must be willing to let them think you're struggling while you are actually accumulating. You must be willing to let them think you're boring while you are actually building an empire in the dark. As we discussed in Chapter 8 of How to Talk Like a Leader, you must speak with backbone. This means when someone asks, "Why aren't you buying X?" or "Why don't you live in Y?" you don't give a 10-minute explanation of your investment strategy. You simply smile and say, "I'm happy with my current setup." And then you stop talking. Let the silence be the boundary. The reward of non-explanation. When you reach the point where your life doesn't need to be explained, something miraculous happens. Anxiety disappears. The majority of human stress comes from the gap between who you actually are and who you want the world to think you are. When you close that gap, when you decide to just be and let the results speak for themselves, you unlock a level of focus that is terrifying to the 99%. You no longer care about the Joneses. You no longer care about the trending status symbols. You are playing a different game. You are playing for legacy. You are playing for freedom. You are playing for the ability to look at your children and know that they are secure because you had the balls to be boring when everyone else was being flashy. Your standard of sovereignty. Starting today, I want you to practice the art of the silent win. When you reach a milestone, when you hit a savings goal, when an investment pays off, when you finish a project, don't tell anyone, don't post it, don't seek a congratulations. Let the win sit in your bank account and your mind. Feel the strength of a secret victory. This builds internal capital. It proves to your brain that you don't need external validation to be a winner. You are building a life that is yours and yours alone. The world is loud, broke, and desperate for attention. You are quiet, wealthy, and focused on freedom. You don't need to explain the blueprint, you just need to build the house. The final word, becoming the unshakable commander. We have reached the end of the blueprint, but for most of you, the real war is only beginning. You have sat through these chapters. You have heard the brutal truths about your ego, the emotional traps of your own biology, and the loud, broke reality of the 99%. But information is not transformation. Knowledge without application is just mental masturbation. You could listen to this audiobook 100 times, but if you walk back into your life tomorrow and react to the same triggers, buy the same lies, and chase the same approval, then you have wasted your time and mine. The choice of sovereignty. Financial Stoicism is not a get-rich tactic, it is a be-free philosophy. It is the realization that your financial state is the ultimate filter of your character. Throughout this journey, we have dismantled the idea that wealth is about the things you own. We have replaced it with the truth that wealth is about the things you refuse to let own you. Look at the world around you one last time. Look at the people rushing to jobs they hate, spending money they don't have to impress people who don't care. They are in a trance. They are the stagnant that the world eventually punishes. You now have the lens to see through that noise. You know that every dollar in your hand is a decision between being a passenger or a pilot. When you choose to save, when you choose to invest, when you choose to stay quiet about your wins, you are reclaiming your sovereignty. You are telling the world, you cannot buy my attention and you cannot manipulate my ego. The burden of the 1%. Being part of the 1% in mindset and eventually in assets comes with a burden. It is the burden of being misunderstood. People will call you lucky when you succeed, conveniently forgetting the thousands of times you said no to the small pleasures they indulged in. They will call you cold because you didn't join them in their emotional panic when the markets dipped. They will call you boring because you didn't trade your future for a temporary status symbol. Accept this burden with a smile. The silence of your bank account and the clarity of your mind are the only responses you need. You don't need to win arguments, you just need to win. You don't need to explain the blueprint, you just need to live in the house you built. The architecture of your legacy. Financial Stoicism is about building a legacy that outlasts your impulses. It's about the mind boost that comes from knowing that your family is secure, not because of a lucky break, but because you were the one who had the balls to be disciplined when everyone else was being flashy. True confidence is the calm you feel when the world is in chaos. While the 99% are reacting to the headlines, the financial stoic is looking for opportunity. While they are losing their minds, you are expanding your empire. This is the dangerous confidence we talked about. It is dangerous because it is unhackable. When you live as if you need nothing, the world has no hooks to pull you. You are free to pursue the highest version of yourself without the social debt of the masses weighing you down. Final instructions for the commander. As you finish this audio, I want you to do 3 things immediately. Kill the noise, audit your environment, unfollow the accounts that trigger your ego, delete the apps that make you feel less than. If your environment is designed to make you a consumer, you will never be a commander. Audit the receipt, look at your last 30 days of spending. Face the mirror. Identify every purchase that was made for your pride instead of your freedom. Acknowledge it and vow to never let that version of yourself take the wheel again. Start the process. Wealth is a slow game. Don't look for the moonshot. Look for the habit. Set your automated investments. Build your war chest. Focus on the 4% of your day that builds your future. Success is not a destination, it is a standard. It is the standard of the person who keeps promises to themselves. It is the standard of the person who values their time more than their image. It is the standard of the financial stoic. The world is waiting. The world is only getting faster. The gap between the learners and the stagnant is growing wider every day. You have the blueprint. You have the mindset. You have the quiet strength of the mind boost philosophy behind you. Now go out and prove it with your actions. Don't talk about it. Don't post about it. Just build it. Build a life that is so solid, so wealthy, and so free that it requires no explanation. The results will be your only witness, and your freedom will be your only reward. You are no longer a victim of the trap. You are the commander of your capital. You are the architect of your future. Stay disciplined. Stay detached. Stay wealthy. This is Mind Boost Audiobook. The blueprint is in your hands. Now, go and execute.